Today we are preaching this message online as it is not safe for the congregation to meet, for the church to be together. I'm praying for all of you in your homes and in your places where you are hunkering down and sheltering in place. I must be honest, the idea of preaching in front of a camera terrifies me, but I love you all so much. I am here and I am doing this in spite of my uncomfortableness. I will go ahead and read the gospel lesson today, John 9, 1 to 41. It is a long one, so stay with me as I go. As he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. The disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's work might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud in the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. He went and washed and came back able to see. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some were saying, "It is he," but others were saying, "No, it's someone like him." He kept saying, "I am the man." But they kept asking him, "Then how were your eyes opened?" He answered them, "A man called Jesus made mud, spread it in my eyes, and said to me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' Then I went and washed and received my sight." They said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been formerly blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also began to ask him how he had received his sight. But he said to them, "He put mud in my eyes. Then I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath." Others said, "How can a man who is a sinner perform such signs?" They were divided. So they again said to the blind man, "What do you say about him? It was your eyes he opened." He said, "He is a prophet." The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and received sight until they called his parents of the parents of the man who received sight, and asked him, "Is this your son, who you said was born blind? Then how does he now see?" His parents answered, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind, but we do not know how it is that he now sees, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that anyone who confessed Jesus to be the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." For the second time they called the man who had been born blind, and they said to him, "Give glory to God, for we know this man is a sinner." He answered, "I do not know whether he is a sinner. The one thing I know, that though I was blind, now I see." They said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I have already told you, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear again? Do you also want to become one of his disciples?" They reviled him, saying, "You are his disciple, but we are a disciple of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he comes from." The man answered, "Here is an astonishing thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he has opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but he does listen to the one who worships him and obeys his will. Never since the world has begun has it been heard that anyone has opened the eyes of a blind person. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." They answered him, "You were born entirely in sin. Are you trying to teach us?" And they drove him out. Jesus had heard that they had driven him out, and when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered, "And who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe." Jesus answered him, "You have seen him, and the one asking with you is he." He said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not the blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would not have sinned. But now that you say we see, your sin remains." The Gospel of the Lord. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to be blind. Close your eyes. When you close them, what do you lose? Light, spatial awareness, the knowledge of what is around you, to some degree community, or the awareness of it, for at that moment you lose the ability to know if or who is around you. To some degree our other senses kick in. We begin to hear the noises around us, imagining what they are. We begin to speak and ask who is near us, what's going on, try to gain a little control back. But the knowns and unknowns change at that moment. Our ability to see, let alone see around corners, dissipates. Our ability to predict what is coming next, to see ahead of change as our sight changes. If this were to continue for some time, a touch of fear begins to rise up in us as our carefully controlled lives and world unravels. Anger, frustration rises, and we become, in some respects, dependent upon each other. And dependence is hard. Trust is hard, especially in the United States, where independence is treasured above all else. I must be honest, as a kid in a youth group, whenever a youth leader did the very common thing of trust games, I would cringe. The game involved one person being blindfolded and the other person helping them through either a course or on a path, through a forest, whatever the case may be. I'd cringe. I'd move quick to be one of those without the mask, the one leading the blind. I knew I was trustworthy and capable, and clearly more than everybody else. I know that this was the place I felt most comfortable, leading the blindfolded, not being the blind. I knew that leading came with a lot of responsibility. The ability to see what might happen, to notice the small cracks in the pavement that could be tripped on, to notice and protect the other from even the slightest change in the ground. But being blind meant hoping and praying the other would be diligent, thoughtful, and really have the ability to see around corners, to see the possible problems that might arise. I didn't like that. Being the blind meant you had no control. In the Bible today, we are reminded that 2,000 years ago, the blind didn't have the same options they have today in overcoming their disabilities. Today, those who find themselves with the same affliction, once overcoming the fear and loss, often learn to overcome and live very independent lives in spite of the disability. But 2,000 years ago, during the time of the Bible, during the time of this man, being born blind or being blind was a curse. And Jesus steps in and brings sight, brings life. The Pharisees, having both heard and seen what had been done, spent a lot of time here trying to find fault with it. Not only were they looking for a loophole that would declare this a fake, they were looking for a way to disprove Jesus and prove he was lawless. And the parents, they're just trying to stay within the synagogue. Their fear is being thrown out of the church. Last week, I mentioned the importance of seeing in John. In this text, there was a lot of seeing going on. I think it was like 21 times seeing is used in this text. Jesus is trying to help a man who could not see. Jesus is trying to get his disciples to see him. Jesus is trying to get the Pharisees to see that their belief that they are not sinners is keeping them from seeing. This is an incredibly crazy time in our lives. We are feeling a blindness of sorts. We can't see what's coming. It's not only invisible to the human eye, we can't see around corners. We don't know what is happening next, what life will be like after it hits full force, after it goes away. The questions of who, when, why, and how, we can't fully answer. It's easy to get distracted by the things we cannot see, the corners we can't look around. In the words of Dr. Phil, we don't know what we don't know. And that's a hard place to be. Just as I hated being the blind person in our youth activities, I hate being out of control here and now. I'd much rather be the helping others see the potholes kind of place. And yet we are all a bit blind today, at home and at the mercy of others. This is just the first week of containment, confinement, whatever we're going to call it, for most of us. And yet, not all of us even have that control. Many are still working so that others may be well, so life continues on, so things don't fall apart. There is a great fear of the unknown right now. I looked at Galen white-faced earlier this week as I learned just how long this could be. I asked the question, how do we be the church when we can't even meet together? This is the time we need each other most. This is the time when hope needs to be revealed. This is the time when we need Jesus to spit in some mud and clear our eyes so that we might not be clouded by fear, but see hope. Not see chaos, but see people helping one another. Businesses changing rules to care for those in need. Businesses asking, what can I do? People asking, what can I do? Let us not see just the potential for joblessness, but an opportunity to do things better, differently. As our eyes are cleared, let us go and do likewise. Let us be hope to a world drowning in fear. My prayer today is that we might have our anxious eyes spit in and wash thoroughly, that we would see the hope in change. We would see not isolation, but solitude. We would see not a world of can'ts, but a world of possibilities. That we would pull our loved ones close to us and tell them, I love you, even if it is through technology, which is not seeming so evil today. Jesus came that those who were blind would see. Let us see the world as Jesus sees it. We have a man today in the Bible born blind, cursed in a way, hopeless and fearful. And Jesus turns it around. He opens his eyes. He sees the light. Let us have our eyes opened from our places of fear. Now, I don't know exactly where you are right now, a place of hope, a place of despair, a place of caution, a place of uncertainty, or somewhere in the middle of all of that. But I know that Jesus is with us, physically with us, in our homes, sitting next to you on the couch, in our jobs, even sitting with us in our places of fear. There you will find Jesus, loving us and hoping for us. I pray that Jesus will spit on all of us today, that he will shine his light on our fear. I pray he will send you laughter and joy and love. He will shine hope and peace on you today. Even as we are apart, we are all in this together. Amen.